Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Michael Orion from Rolling Wizards, a Vietnam-based design studio and consultancy. Michael has several games in development and available for pre-order. Michael, welcome to the binge. How you doing, my friend?
Amazing. Super awesome intro. Great to meet you.
Oh, it's great to meet you too. This is the first time we've met. We just started talking
Yep.
like 30 seconds ago before we went on air.
Yeah.
And I was just saying, like, what attracted me to pull you in as a guest is I saw on one of the Facebook pages you had mentioned that you had this game called Fafa that's coming out,
Yep.
or for us Anglos sometimes call it Faux at your local
Yeah.
restaurant.
FOFA.
Yeah, and my dad actually calls it Po, which is kind of funny.
That's
And
fine.
and the fact that you're based out of Vietnam, I found really interesting because I hadn't talked to anybody from Vietnam yet. And I really like to talk with guests from around the world and really kind of understand how board game is kind of integrated into the culture. And the fact that you're there and you're a designer, you're a publisher, you're, I guess, a broker in some cases doing consulting and
Yep.
things like that. It just all wrapped into one. I thought, wow, what a great guest to have on board. So, to start off with, what brought you to Vietnam?
Yeah. Long story. So my wife is Vietnamese American, and we met 15 years ago in New York.
Mm,
And we've always kind of talked about moving to Asia at some point, but it's not such an easy thing to pull off. So we kept
yeah.
moving west, made our way to California. We were in California a long time. We had our daughter there, and when she was around 5 or 6, we were like, okay, let's get serious. Let's actually think about moving there. So we would take trips out there, 1 month trips, 2 month trips, see if she warmed up to it.
Yeah.
She was totally into it. And after like a year of like planning, we just pulled the trigger and just like basically sold everything and
Wow.
just went over there. So we kind of both had decent jobs. We just like quit our jobs. We were like, let's just restart. Let's try an experiment in Vietnam. So we went easy to get there. Once you're there, it's easy to find apartments, easy to get help. And then have her go to school. And then during the day, we're just like, all right, let's go. Let's try something new. So for me, that was like, how can I just start trying to make board games?
Yeah.
Initially, it was just create a board game community. And then it just rolled into this.
Now, I mean, what a risk, eh, for both of you to quit your job. Now, I've got a colleague that they're kind of like instead of snowbirds going to the States,
Yeah.
him and his wife go to Asia every year. They'll go to like
Yeah.
Vietnam, right? And they
Yeah.
try to find areas that are economical. They'll do the Airbnb thing, or they'll rent a small. Um, if it's cheaper, they'll go to like a resort or something like that. But what
Yeah.
he
That's
said
really
is
common.
the most expensive part is just to get there. But once you're there, it's pretty economical. And everyone says the same thing. It is just an amazing lifestyle. Did you have like was her family still there to kind of act as almost like a
Yeah.
like a safety net for you guys, like with your daughter, or
Not so much as a safety net, more as like it's like a easier way to just warm up to it because we
yeah,
would travel around and our daughter would meet like her cousins, her grandparents that she never met. So there's like all these aunties and uncles all over the country that we did a big tour going to see their family. So she was like, I didn't know I had so many cousins. So she was like really much more like pumped about it. So that part was like the biggest barrier. Like, how do we like make our daughter excited about this? You can't wait too long or her roots are too deep in the
yeah,
US. So that was really like, we have to do it now or we're just not going to be able to pull it off. And that was it. So we were just, once we knew she was happy, once we found a school that she really liked, we just like pulled the trigger and made the move. And then my wife got a scholarship to go to the university there to get her master's. So that was like the other little benefits. They're like, okay, she has something that she's going to be doing. I'll go there and I'll figure something out. So I was like, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I was just like, I'll figure it out. Pretty entrepreneurial.
and what were you doing before then? What was your job that you quit in the States?
I was at Salesforce for a couple of years as a
Okay,
strategist.
yeah.
So it was like helping companies kind of figure out their market entry plans and product development, all that stuff. And then before that, it was B2B sales at an augmented reality company. It was like a global partnership guy. And then telco before that.
So you clearly understand how to make connections and to network and things like that, which are handy skills when you're going to another country
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm used to getting a lot of rejection. So it was like, okay, no problem. I can just go do anything. It's
Yeah.
fine.
And then when you started like board gaming, like were you a board gamer before you went to Vietnam, or was that something you kind of picked up when you
Yeah.
were there? Yeah, okay.
For sure. Yeah. Like lifetime, like basically hobby designer. Like when I was a kid, I was programming like video games on MS-DOS, like
Oh
making
wow.
custom levels for Doom, like things like that. We were going in the computer lab in like high school and just that's all we would do. So I feel like it was always part of my like DNA. Just
Yep.
like tinkering, like playing Magic the Gathering, make custom decks was always my favorite.
Yep.
Taking a little bit of a break for a while after college, but then like we're getting really back into board gaming probably in like my late 20s.
Okay.
And then I think my first published game was like 12 or 13 years ago with Breaking Games. You know, Breaking Games? They're out of Jersey. They're not a
Uh,
big publisher, but they were also a manufacturer. So they're a manufacturer for exploding kittens. So
okay,
they're like
gotcha. Yeah,
huge.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
Huge.
they were trying to do publishing for a while, and then I don't know where they are now with it, but they published one of my games called Aura. So it was like a really abstract card game. This is one of my first, I think my first published game. Yeah, a long time ago. So I got like exposure to that industry.
Yeah.
Would go to Gen Con, go to the events to promote it, meet a lot of really cool people. When we had our first daughter, I just took a long design break, like 5 or 6 years. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Just worked all day. I went to work and then took care of the family, and that's it. It wasn't until moving to Vietnam until I just picked up like design again, got excited about it. I like saw the community. I was like, oh, there's something here. And like we started a board game design meetup. So every 2 weeks, we would just get people together and just share each other's prototypes. So I was looking for it. We had it in California. I would go
Yeah.
all the time just for fun. And it was like really exciting community, and it was like great people. And I was like, okay, let's find that community in Vietnam. And it just didn't exist, but there was a ton of board game cafes. There's board game cafes everywhere, so there's people
Really?
playing.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
the design community wasn't really like coming together so well.
So okay, so yeah, so you had like there's board games are the thing, obviously there, right? From a
Yeah,
social perspective. So it wasn't like you're trying to introduce people to what the idea of modern hobby board games are. Like that had already started and
exactly.
flourished there. But from your perspective, it's like, okay, now how can I tap into this and take some of the maybe best practices from North America from the publishing and design side and see if we can bring it to Vietnam. Clearly, there's some manufacturing benefits in
Yeah,
Vietnam as well. I know we were just saying before we went on air, like Long Pack, right, has got some roots set up there.
yeah,
Um,
Longshore and Longpack.
yeah, with some of the tariff, obviously, I one of my games I had we had funded and then the tariffs hit. And that's one thing we were exploring, right? Is in talking to Longpack, saying,
Mm,
you know, can we make part of this game in Vietnam, right? Just to get into a
yep.
different tariff bracket, so to speak.
Yeah,
So
that was the hot topic.
yeah, yeah. So they must have been almost overwhelmed, I would think, at some point, right?
They would definitely seemed like it, and it was like a longer process to make games with them here
Yeah,
versus the normal time frame would have been much quicker. But it's like I think they have a huge backlog at that time when
yeah.
like the everyone's like, okay, can I switch? Can I switch? Can I switch? And I was like, okay. At that time, we weren't producing with them, so we didn't have that issue. But now I think it was like a 2 month process basically to get it all done. So not that bad.
Now my understanding is it's mainly like before they started kind of funding areas to kind of divert countries to diversify into, and from a manufacturing standpoint is a lot of it was like assembly, I think in Vietnam. Is that correct? Like the machine, the biggest kind of barrier was some of the high tech machinery because that's where all the best equipment is for making board games anywhere in the world is in China. Um, to that equipment doesn't necessarily exist in Vietnam, so sometimes it might have to be like, okay, we'll have to import some components and things, and maybe we'll do assembly here. Was that kind of what you experienced in talking to the manufacturers
Not
there?
just
Or?
them, but I think that's the case for so the paper production in
Mm,
Vietnam is great. You can get anything done. There's a lot of printers that nobody knows about that have like the best Japanese card printers.
no
The,
kidding.
the
Okay.
card quality in Japan is like incredible.
Yeah.
So they'll import those printers and you can get those. There's some in Ho Chi Minh City I can order from. It's
Hmm.
like 30 minutes away. There's other ones that are just little mom and pop print shops that'll do a decent job, like making the boxes, making the rule book. So
Yeah.
like printing out prototypes, things like that is really, really convenient. I could just do like 100 copy run in a week and just
And
have it
linen
ready for it.
finish and all that kind of stuff. They can do all the
Yeah.
premium. Yeah.
I can just
Uh,
have it ready for a show. So stuff like that's really convenient. But if you want like nice quality wood, like UV printing, like things like more fancy components, especially plastic, that's
yeah.
all got to be out of China. So we would import some of that and then assemble it in Vietnam. But that's changing. It's coming. I think it's coming soon. And if you have a huge MOQ, the factories are as good as China. So if you have they're like 100,000 MOQ. They're the
Yeah.
ones that work with Hasbro. They work with Wizards. They produce the Magic the Gathering cards. They're in Vietnam. Just no one knows about it.
Yeah.
So if we ever get to that level, okay, no problem. We'll have everything we need right there. But that'll take some time.
Now being there, are you spending time in the factories yourself? Like, are you going and making sure like you're making a presence and making kind
I
of
have partners that do that.
okay.
Yeah, it's much easier for them because the ones that are local speak zero English, and my Vietnamese is like talking to a 2 or 3 year old, so it's not very fun conversation for anybody, I don't think.
Yeah.
So they go handle that for me. So I have production partners, and then in order to sell games in Vietnam, like as a foreigner, you can't really do it so easily because it's media. So I have to work with a local to do all of this.
Oh,
So
really?
it's actually
Wow.
much better for me. I would much rather do that. Much rather work with partners in Vietnam than try to do it all myself as a foreigner.
Now, your partners are like did you set up like a company and then bring them in as like kind of like bolt-on consultants, or did you like actually partner up with local businesses, or how did you kind of
That's
structure
right.
that?
Yeah, so we set up an actual company in Vietnam, and everything's much easier now. Before that, it was just the company, and I set up an LLC in the U.S. as the initial like easy way,
Yeah.
and then we would sign contracts. They would sign contracts with my company there, and we would be like partners in that way. But now that I have the company in Vietnam, which is a whole process, but it's so much easier now. I have like there's an official stamp that you have to put on all your documents. Like signing everything is very old school. Everything has to be like in person, paper.
Oh, wow.
So like
Okay.
the digital signatures, they exist. It's just not nearly as common. So now that I have this, I can have like much more official partnerships,
Hmm.
and I've been much more like outgoing about trying to make that happen. Whereas before, I was being a little more reserved, trying to like take my time. Now that I have this, I can work with this guy, I can work with this guy that I could never work with before. So I have a bunch now that we're making a lot of different games that like I
Mm.
definitely couldn't have done without that. Like we have a game in progress with a museum in Vietnam. So it's much more official. So I have to be an official entity in Vietnam in order to make that even happen. It won't
Is
work
it
with
hard to set
someone.
up a official entity in Vietnam? Obviously being a foreigner.
No, you just have to find a good like a local agent to consult you and kind of handle all the paperwork, and then it's
Mm.
just a matter of just paying money. So I think the benefit is money handles almost any deals, makes anything better in Vietnam. It's just like if you have enough money, then they'll take care of it. So it's
Yeah.
it's true across the entire board. Like everything is just a little bit easier. Like getting there in the immigration line is really, really long, 2 hours long usually. It's not ideal, but there's a service, 20 US dollars, they'll just bypass the line.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's like
Okay.
things like that exist on like all levels.
So you got to grease people basically everywhere.
I think it's true almost everywhere, but especially Asia.
Yeah. Wow. And then how much are you trying to kind of keep things contained to Vietnam, or are you spending time going to, the Asian countries in the area to kind of branch off as part of your work, or are you trying to like Vietnam being kind of the focus in terms of kind of setting everything up
Both.
as a
Yeah, definitely both. Sorry, I was getting a phone call, and then my phone is connected to my computer. So definitely both. So we want to sell into Vietnam and build the Vietnamese like gaming market, which is
yeah.
super challenging because it's really, really small. Like the hobby market's super tiny. It's all just like Uno, Werewolf, like games like
Mm,
that are the only ones that sell in decent quantities. And it's most some like 50-50 is like what is it, counterfeits. So yeah, it's a really challenging market to sell into. I don't do that. I'm focused mostly on hobby. So I
yeah.
work with the partners to try and grow that in like creative ways, and then promoting Vietnam externally. So I definitely go all around Asia to show the games, trying to like show them in the US and Europe. I was at Essen last year. I'll go to Gen Con this year. So just promoting Vietnamese culture using games is kind of my mission.
Hmm.
Like using games and game design as like the most positive way possible. So we're doing like education initiatives. We're doing a game for a women's health nonprofit in Vietnam.
Oh, that's
We're just
awesome.
trying to like showcase games as like a utility, as a tool, as like
Hmm.
a resource that we can use to like do something important, and trying to reframe the view of games because games in Vietnam are seen as gambling or just a waste of
Uh,
time. Like the parents don't want kids to be playing these games when they could be like studying or going
yeah.
to work or doing something like helpful for the family, which is totally understandable. Of course, that makes sense because they just see games as gambling because traditionally the culture is like during the Lunar New Year, everyone's kind of rolling dice, like betting money. That's their gaming experience. Everyone plays games during that time. And the
Mm,
games are really simple, like classic games where it's just all randomness and all
mhm.
betting. So it's super fun. I partake and it's a lot of fun. But like that's what everyone sees games as. So we're like, okay, how can we level that up? Is like, okay, let's bring them into the schools. Let's bring them in like nonprofits. Let's promote Vietnam overseas using games. So
Yeah.
it's like these three different things, and it's definitely having an impact. So it's like it's a longer. It's going to take some time to grow that market. But in
Mm,
the meantime, we're like showing things about Vietnam to the global community. So when my wife and I were in the U.S., we were trying to like find games about Vietnam to show our daughter, find games about other Asian countries and like Japan and China. It's really hard to find anything
yeah.
else. So I was like, how can we like just let's just contribute a little bit? So that was the real main like motivation to work this hard and try to like make something happen. So it's been really fun.
Is there like, does the government get involved to help at all? Like, because I mean, you're obviously promoting the country, right? And you're promoting
Yeah.
country's commerce in terms of export and so forth. I know Western
Not at my
countries,
scale. Yeah, not
no,
at my
okay.
scale. Maybe if we they don't really even recognize board games at all because it's too small in
Mm,
their eyes. So I think it's changing a little bit because some recent hits in video games. There's like indie video games in Vietnam. One was about a file shop. This kid, the student, made it in Hanoi. It's hilarious. It's all like low poly, like old school vibe, like video game, and you're just serving bowls of pho in this shop.
mm,
And the customers come up, and you have to like get their order. They sit down, they eat, and then they leave. Really simple, but all of a sudden, some weird customers show up. But all the whole time, your dog is trying to walk out and get and like go look around. You're trying to bring him back in so he doesn't get lost. And these weird dog catchers like ride on a motorcycle and scoop him up and drive away. And you're like, you lose. It's like so you're trying to like protect your dog. It's super weird, but like it was so viral. It like millions and millions of people saw this, and the government was like, "Oh wait, this is great for us. We're like getting a lot of attention." So all of
yeah,
a sudden, they're taking games seriously, but mostly video games, not board games.
yeah.
It's too small. So we have to be more successful for anyone that care. I think there's other companies doing the exact same thing and trying this. So we're all kind of working together to do the exact same mission.
Is there
So
like, what's the distribution model in Vietnam in that area? So is it, like you said, the hobby market's small, friendly local game stores maybe is, or do they even exist? I don't know.
not
But
really.
like, no, yeah.
Yeah.
So is it mainly online sales, or how do they do the sales in the Asian market?
Yeah, it's mostly online through Facebook.
Mm,
Through those, there's a couple importers that know all the people that buy the games. So if there's like a brand new hot Euro game, you, at most 100 copies in the whole country will probably sell.
wow,
And the people that know the people that buy them are like racing to be the first ones to import, so that they get to sell those to that
interesting.
small group.
Okay,
So growing that is like really challenging because the price point's so high. So like
yeah,
$100 US for a game, most people can't afford it. And the
yeah.
ones that can, they just buy everything anyways. And they usually
Mm,
have like a board game shop or a board game cafe. So they're seeing it as like a source of income or a way to attract or market, bring people to their cafe. But the cafe scene is really big. That's probably the second way to find them. There's 28 board game cafes in Ho Chi Minh City,
oh wow,
like almost 40 in Hanoi. And at least from my perspective, the ones in Ho Chi Minh are always full of students, like really young kids, like high school, college, just full all the time during the day, during the night, loud, like really like energetic, super fun. So it feels like really promising. Like once this like culture like grows up and like starts spending money on these games, I think the whole market will really grow.
how do they monetize? Is it like cover charge, or is it based on serving food, or like how do they monetize these?
It's yeah, you just basically pay for a drink and a
Mm,
little extra,
hmm.
and you can hang out and just play games and use their whole library. Some charge a little more than others, but it's not very much. Like the most I've ever seen is maybe $5
Yeah,
for just hang out as long as you want. And that's like a super nice one. The normal ones are maybe $2 essentially to just get a delicious drink and just like hang out and play some games for a little while.
and
So I always play
socialize.
test. Yeah, just socialize. I always play test at a couple cafes and support them and just try to promote them as well. But because they're always promoting us, so it's like a it's a great relationship. And there's others that do video games as well, and like or serve beers or serve drinks and food. So they all find their way to figure it out.
Is it like an event? So if they're having like designers come to their, is it seen as something pretty special? Having a designer come into these cafes at all, or
We will do events for sure. So it's not just me, but the other publishers and
yeah,
the other designers will try to organize playtest events, and then they'll post on their Facebook page. So Facebook is like the de facto way to promote everything there. So it's
yeah,
really it's like the norm. Everyone uses Facebook. So I'll be talking about Facebook a lot. But the publishers will have events where they'll import like Korean publishers games and be like, all right, it's the Korean board game night at this cafe, and then they're just gonna play those games. That's all they're gonna do, and then they'll help promote that, and it's super fun because some of these games are harder to get. So they'll be like,
yeah.
okay, they're coming in like the Splendor Pokemon that's like not supposed to leave Korea, but anyone can get a copy of it. It's not hard.
I got my buddy has a copy. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely keep getting leaked on purpose, I think. So, so they'll have events like that with like things like more exclusive games will just show up.
And then you're at a conference right now, and
Yep.
I've seen from your upcoming schedule on your website, there's a lot of conventions that you're going to be going to throughout the year. Um, is this the predominant way for you to pitch some of the designs you've created, or is it more to kind of find those hidden gems that you're trying to sign for the company, or what's your objective in these various conferences you're going to?
Yeah, good question. Mostly promotion and like B2B relationships.
Hmm.
So it's just an easier way, like the one in Manila that we're at now. There's a lot of European and American publishers here. And like most of the Asian ones came here as well. So it's
Hmm.
just an easy way for all of us to get together and hang out and like show our new products, like show it's like prove that it's in demand. So like our
Hmm.
tables are all full and everyone's asking to buy our games. Okay, so do you want to sell these games in Europe? It's like basically it's just an easier conversation and to have and then selling them here in the Philippines like helps pay for the booth and everything.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just a fun, easier way to promote your products. And then I have new ones that aren't for sale yet, so I'll bring those and like show them for only one day just to get feedback from the
Mm.
audience. Like the most recent game, we it's not ready yet, so I was like, okay, we'll just set up two tables, we'll have people play it, and like it's like 95% there. It feels ready. No one can tell but like I know there's still time to tweak a couple of things. So it was like amazing play testing. We had like 100 people play our game in like 2 days, and then the demoers are like keeping track and like telling me. So like I also see it as a way to just really like fine tune your game before
Hmm.
releasing it. It's super valuable because I'm going to change one or two little things in the UI that people are naturally just doing on their own over and over and over. Okay, I see the pattern, so let's fix that. So for me, it's like it's super valuable going to these events, and then obviously like meeting people that you may or may not never meet because they'll come to you. So it's like, hey, I see you're super busy. I'd love to try your game. So like making these new relationships with all these new Asian publishers. I think I know all of them. Then all of a sudden, someone new pops up, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is great. So it's like you're announcing your presence, and if people are interested, they're gonna come to you. So going to
Yeah.
these things are I think essential.
And then, and I'm going to show on the screen here for people that are watching on the replay or on the video. Um, you've got a number of games on your website. Some of these are pre-orders. Some you've announced are coming down the road. Any of these going to hit Kickstarter at all, or is this predominantly just selling in the Asian market right now?
A lot of people have been asking, so I've just been taking my time with doing crowdfunding, like focus on building like a
Hmm.
portfolio, building a reputation. But the stem and branch one, we're planning to do a Kickstarter for like a more fancier version.
Hmm.
We made miniatures for it 2 years ago, and I showed them in Thailand. Everyone was like, "Where can I buy those? Where can I buy those?" And I was like looking up how to make them like more officially, and the cost was too high and I really wanted the game to be like family friendly, so like much more affordable. So we just focused on making the affordable version first. But now that's out. We finally like launched that 2 weeks ago. So like, okay, now let's shift focus on like, okay, the global market. Let's how can we make this easier to distribute overseas. So I think Kickstarter would be a great solution for that. So my partner in Vietnam and I are gonna work on making that happen the end of this year to just like the first Kickstarter to promote that game overseas, and then but also of course we'll have like a much fancier version to help with that.
And what would you
So we're
say is
excited to push that out.
Yeah, and what's your biggest like? Obviously, there's some Asian themes in some of these that I'm seeing on your site right now. But what would you say is kind of like your go-to for figuring out the mechanisms or like the gameplay side of not the theme, but more the gameplay side of these games? Do you start with a theme? Is it inspiration on something you see, or do you have an idea and you go from there, or what's the
Mm. You- I definitely go both ways, but I think I'm primarily a theme first designer.
mm,
So giving the thematic restriction, I can really work backwards from that. But I always have, I mean, if you're a designer, you have a ton of ideas already in your notebook, you know, like a mechanics that you thought of years ago. So I'll
yeah,
definitely like flip through my like Rolodex of like ideas and see what matches, and then just try something out as soon as possible. Just if you have an idea, just put it on paper and try it. That's my advice to everybody, like ASAP. But like if another example is if I play another game I don't necessarily like the game, but there's this really cool mechanic in that game that I think is really great, but it's only for two players. Okay, how do I make that for like six players?
yeah,
So then I like think about that, and sometimes that will turn into a whole different idea. I'm like, oh, this theme would really work with that, and so it definitely for me goes completely both ways. But like as an example, there was the women's health nonprofit that I worked
yep,
with. They had a light idea for a game. They came to one of our playtest meetups, and they had like all AI art. It was just a prototype. It looked really
mm,
cool. I was like, whoa, what the heck is this? It was about a theme I've never seen a game about. There were like tampons on the cards. There was this like cervical cancer with one of the cards. And I was like, this is
yeah,
amazing. Like, how can I get involved in this? So I offered to help them. So we redesigned the whole game, but like I kept the restriction. They only had 18 cards. They only had like a simple idea. So I was like, how
yeah,
can we keep it like focused on this audience, like of like people that don't play games? Because I have to think of a theme that matches like this idea of like there's something hidden that we don't want to talk about, that like no one in Vietnam wants to talk about like women's healthcare conditions. Like I
yeah,
don't want to talk about it with strangers, let alone like my friends. It's my spouse maybe.
yeah,
So we're like, how do we make a theme that matches that? So that was pure theme, like fixing the entire game. The gameplay was just like old maid or something, and we just turned it into an actual like proper game and redid all the art with them. So it's like working backwards from that one for me was like, okay, now I can really hone in. I have like a complete restriction that I have to work with to make this game work. But now the game's really, really great.
you would think something like that on a crowdfunding platform would do quite well. Just
That's true.
given the mission
That's
behind it,
probably
right?
true. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Because I don't make any money from that game. We're just donating everything to them.
yeah,
And I've been showing it here at the show, and the reception's been super positive. And people are like, "Oh, how can I get this here? Is there an English version?" I'm like, "No, we don't have the English yet, but we're gonna make it." And I was like, "But it would be really cool to work with like a women's health nonprofit here in the Philippines, and like how can we come together and like connect two NGOs? Like, the money from the game can go to that one, a little bit can
hmm,
funnel back into Vietnam. So at least we're like keeping that supply of like resources going into the country, but also supporting local initiatives here in the Philippines. I think that was a brand new idea. I just like was inspired by what people were saying to me here today. So I was like, okay, that would be really cool. But doing Kickstarter also a good idea for something like that. I didn't think about. I'm just doing a little too many too many things. So maybe I should focus a little bit more.
How much of this is coming back to like, is your focus to try to relink back to the States? So in terms of the game community in the States, or in terms of like play testing, do you relink back with like former colleagues in the States, like online and things like that, or is your focus entirely now in Vietnam?
It feels entirely in Asia, but I
Mhm.
definitely keep connected with like old friends and old
Sure.
colleagues in the US, especially when I know I'm going back for an event. We'll make definitely make time to like connect and hang out and catch up. I think that's essential. Get feedback on like games. So I will like send a cover art, picture. Oh, what do you think? Do you think this will work in the market? Or like, what
Yeah.
do you think of this idea? If I have like a half baked idea, I'll send it to like a friend at a publisher who I know maybe would sign it. So we have like it's much easier for me to just have that relationship. Whereas if I was completely zero, I'd have to fly constantly to all these events and like pitch nonstop or go on like TTS pitch nonstop. So I
Yeah.
feel like that was like 10 years ago I was doing that. But I like luckily I have a lot of those relationships, so it's a little easier. So it's like now it's focusing on just growing the Asian market, and they
Mhm.
know I exist. They know I'm making games, so it's just much easier, like a quick message on Facebook or something, and we can just see if it works.
What's your plan for 2027? Like looking forward to kind of where this company is going. Like, have you kind of mapped out the growth trajectory of where you see
Yeah, yeah.
Rolling Wizards going, or?
Yeah, so my plan initially was like, okay, I'll do I'll do all the design. I'll like proof of concept that this is like actually possible. So that's
Mhm.
working. Like our first game was signed with Arcane Wonders. They have the global English, so they're like promoting that. Like, okay, it works. And in our next games, we're gonna do direct English. But next year, I want to focus more on the local designers. Now we've been last few years, we've been trying to like help improve them, but now the designs are really great. So it's like just a matter of development, tweaking it. So I'm going to shift focus from my designs to their designs,
Mm.
develop their games, and then promote them. So like that's my next mission. And like you mentioned, Kickstarter, we're going to test it out with just one game this year. But next year, I want to do like a Kickstarter that's focused on like a bundle of like not just my games from my company, like other people's companies. Like how can we get a little bit from everybody and just make it easier for them to get overseas exposure and have like a Vietnam export like Kickstarter, something like that would be really awesome, I think.
I got a buddy that does he'll buy like there'll be I don't know whose Kickstarter he keeps doing, but he'll get like a box of like 50 games from Japan.
Oh wow, that's
All in
that's a
one
lot.
shot, right? Yeah, it's like it's bananas. Like it so there's definitely I think a market for something like that where um again bundling with other companies and say, hey, we're going to do a Kickstarter, mix and match. You pick 10 games from this list
Yeah.
and for XYZ price and then we'll ship it to you.
Yeah, exactly. Because we had a
Uh,
table set up the first 2 days here of maybe 15 of other publishers' games
yeah.
just on display from
Mhm.
Vietnam. No one's seen any of them before. They're all like, what are all these games? They're like, I've never seen it. And they look amazing. Like the production value is insane, but they're just such small print runs, small batch, or they're in Vietnamese only. So there's no chance that people would see them. So it's just
Yeah.
a matter of, I think, exposure.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, Michael, I want to wish you and your company all the best. It's so
Yeah.
cool to hear what you're doing here in Vietnam and expanding this love that we all have to other parts of the globe. I think it's so awesome,
Yeah, it's amazing.
and it's cool to see that you've lined yourself up with some partners in the area and giving others a chance to enjoy this hobby as well. So, again, I want to wish you and your company all the best, my friend.
I really appreciate it. Thank
All
you so
right,
much
you
for
take
having
care,
me
buddy.
on.
Cheers.
Okay, see you soon.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.